Hey guys, how's it going here? This is Lavelle Miller here with the Brave Way podcast, uh, UFC 253, DraftKings, and DraftKings Sportsbook predictions. If you, depending on how you listen to this, if you're listening to it on a podcast form, like I said in the intro, I will be, discussing the fights, fighters I think's going to win, whatever, uh, get you the most money. Obviously with the odds and everything else like that. I won't be going that long, and I'll be doing this a lot different than I normally do, where I'll just try to give you a couple things to think about for time purposes, so they can just get it out there. You guys can share it around, and people can see. You can always, contact me at 37 Mode on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if you have any questions about a fighter or this fight or how I think the fight is going to go. People who have used this by me have traditionally done very well for themselves, especially when the sportsbook side comes to play in regards to looking at a lot of these odds. So what I want to do now is tell you, one, there are two fighters who ended up missing weight by 4 pounds. Uh, Zubura Tagugov. If you guys are looking at it on YouTube, you'll see me clicking on the link now. Zubura Tagugov missed about 4 pounds. And Loveto Clean, Veti, whatever he says his name, Clean, he missed about 4 pounds. Things that are interest of this is that Zabura, he wasn't late notice. This was his original opponent the entire time. And then Clean is a replacement for Shane Young. Both of these fights are taking place. Still, Clean took this fight on a week's notice. He's also the favorite, which is very interesting, competing against Shane Young. And I will also let you guys know this, if you didn't already know, which is I'm sure you did, that this fight is going on at Abu Dhabi, which means they are back in the large cage. So you have a lot of smaller fighters on the card. You have it's two light heavyweight bouts besides the championship. No, actually, I think that's including the championship. You have two light heavyweight bouts, and then you have one middleweight bout, and then you have welter, and then everybody else is 55 and under. And actually, I don't even think there's 55 fights, but a 155 weight class. But I think it's 170 and below. So with all this extra movement, it's going to be great for the kickboxers. A little bit harder for the wrestlers, unless they're competing against somebody else who's a natural grappler. Finishing might be a lot harder because when you try to initiate the finishing sequence, people have so much more room to move. And you can see the difference when you fight in a smaller cage where somebody's trying to move and they naturally touch their back to the cage. Like, side note, just put in here, you got to think about it. When you watch these guys fight, when they fight at the Apex Center in a smaller cage, look how many people naturally, when they're moving and they step back and then they realize they're at the back of the cage because they're not used to that much room. The black lines, as you see, a lot of people typically fight in those spaces because it's easier to either blitz somebody across or go for the takedown against the cage. It's also obviously easier to defend takedowns if you have the cage behind your back as well. So there's that. Another thing is the reason why they like doing them in Abu Dhabi is because they can have more foreign fighters fight. And if you think about it like this, the people don't like to talk about this. Depending on how the COVID situation is in a certain country, some people have been able to train as hard as they wanted to the entire time. Some people have not. City Kickboxing has quite a bit of fighters on this card. If you don't know anything about City Kickboxing is where the champion Israel Adesanya is from, and Alexander Volkanovski, and they're based in Australia and New Zealand. So New Zealand has been pretty much opened up for many months now after being shut down. So those fighters have been able to use their traditional training partners, training equipment, and things like that because they weren't really letting people fly into the country without being quarantined for I think like 21 to 14 days with multiple tests before they let him out. So that's something to consider when you have a lot of these city kickboxing guys on this card. I think for one, I think a lot of them are going to do fairly well. That's a little homework for you guys to do. Is you guys see people who are on this card that are for city kickboxing. I think majority of them will win with their overall strikes, the fangs moving in and out, and then with this large cage being able to move around. And there's like a little, and then there's a little bit more things I'll be talking about in a deeper detail. But getting into it, if you guys have seen this before, what I like to do is try to give you sure things. Sure things are fighters not only think is going to win, but win by finish. Second is fighters who try to give you fighters to avoid, and fighters to avoid is typically based off price. And then I like to also give you people who can fill it out. Like you could pick, like let's say you pick high end on these end, and then you pick two of these fighters who fight in the same fight. One is obviously going to win, one's going to lose, but the winner could be, give you 70, 80 fan points, and the loser could still give you like 50. And that's very important when you're doing the DraftKings lineups, because you can end up. There was a guy. Another side note: there was a guy that I did a head-to-head with last week. He picked a fighter that ended up. You don't know, this is MMA, so anything can happen. One of his fighters gave him 1 point. The other person gave them 0. So, you don't. Nobody knows that somebody's gonna get flash KO'd right away. You don't know. You don't think that somebody's gonna get taken out, get submitted like right away. But those are things to try to be cognizant of if you know a lot of fighters' finishing abilities and their sequences and then their past things. And it was a substantial head-to-head bet. So to bet the farm on that, and then not really necessarily, you do the research on the fighters to try to upend your costs a little bit more, was obviously costly to him. So for sure things, I don't actually have that many. And then like this is something else I don't know if I mentioned it or not, because trying to process a lot of things a lot faster than what I do. Sure things are also, it's like by cost as well as a factor, because somebody being a sure thing with a finish with a high cost, that messes up your lineups in different points. So like Jake Matthews is fighting Diego Sanchez. A lot of people are going to lock that up in as a sure thing, and Jake Matthews should easily beat Diego Sanchez. The thing about Jake Matthews is that, let's see here if they have his record up, because I didn't put it. Jake Matthews has a lot of wins on his record by subs. Diego Sanchez has never been subbed in his whole UFC career, and he is a UFC 1 or 2, I can't remember, vet. That's how long he's been around. So that's something to think about when it comes to the overall striking. It's like if he stands and trades, he'll probably do fairly well. But if you guys are looking at it on here, like I have the lineup thing set up, you see that in his wins and losses, I mean, yeah, there's some 17 or whatever, but he's been trying to get a lot more standing up in when he's competing against a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys have been able to stuff a lot of his takedowns. But if Jake Matthews is thinking in his head his path to win is to get Diego on the ground and submit him, good luck trying, right? Because Diego has been in there with some of the best grapplers of all time. He's a black belt himself. And so, the Nick Diaz's of the world. And then you got to remember, Diego Sanchez has fought as high as 85 and as low as 45. So he's been there with Diego Sanchez of the world, the BJ Penns, stuff like that. It's like he's not going to easily be submitted by anybody, even at this stage of the game, because he has so many neural pathways that are ingrained in to help him get out of sticky situations. But with that being said, too, he's also 9,400. You look at Jake Matthews' fantasy points is at 65.8. Yeah, he may beat Diego, but he maybe only beat Diego by finish. I'm not finished by decision. And at 9,400, it's not really worth it. Cook this guy Riddle again that I looked at. Like this guy Brad Riddle, as you guys see here, both of his wins. First of all, that Musev guy is kind of interesting. When he ended up beating him, but you see he won by his only decision. His first fight in the UFC, you know, a lot of times you get not necessarily feeders, but you get guys that you know you should beat. So you have that. Juan Espinoza fighting Jeff Hughes. They're both grapplers. Juan Espinoza is he wrestled at the Olympic and world level for Spain. So he's going to have the advantage. But, and like, yeah, his fantasy points are pretty high. They're in a bigger cage. I don't think that, like, I think he'll beat Jeff Hughes. I just think he'll finish him. And if you go down to Jeff Hughes' things, his losses that you see here in the UFC, he has only lost by decision. And then he was TKO'd by Todd Duffy, but then it ended up being a no contest, probably because Todd Duffy tested positive for the knows. So just think about that when it comes to those. And then as we get deeper into rap, if we want to think about these other fighters, we'll throw this out here first. Kind of jumping around doing little different things, because I will talk about what you guys want me to talk about. Trust me. Sijara Eubanks, I'm going to just go ahead and put her up here, right? Just look at this value. I told people a couple weeks ago when she fought, what was her name? Julia Alva. That Julia Alva was a high betting favorite and Sijara Eubanks was lower. I told many people she is a jiu-jitsu black belt, and if this goes to the ground, if that's what Alva wants to do, it is going to be hard for her. Like, even though, because Sijara's black belt, Alva's is a brown belt, belts don't necessarily matter when you get to a certain level of skills, right? But Sijara has competed at high level competitions. I'm sure Alva has as well. You know, just kind of give it a little bit more, obviously more little thoughts of what you wanted to think about. But she also was like, they were about the same size. I thought Sijara was going to be a little bit bigger, but they're both were powerful, and I was like, they're both going to sit there and stand and trade and throw heat. But as you see, Sijara Eubanks was 6,800. She got 104 fantasy points, and she won. I had a couple people put some substantial cash on her, and they were very happy that they listened to me in that decision, because she was a plus 400 dog, and I told people, I said, dude, she is a live dog. Like, do not fall for that trap. And it's the same thing like fighting Caitlin Vieira, as she's getting disrespected again. Caitlin Vieira hasn't fought in almost a year. And let me pull up Caitlin Vieira here so you guys can see her on the DraftKings thing. So Caitlin Vieira hasn't fought in almost a year. When she last fought, she got knocked out by Inre Aldana, who's fighting Holly Holm sometime soon. And then she had a little bit, well, she had more than a year off when she had her last win was against Kat Zingano, which doesn't necessarily mean much. Kat Zingano now fights in Bellator. At her first fight, she ended up winning, but the third round, her opponent was able to take her down, mount her, and had her mounted for a substantial amount of time. And that was supposed to be like the gimme fight for her. So she ended up winning 29-27 on all scorecards because she got a 10-8 in the first round. But she, it's surprised that fight wasn't a draw. I would just say that. It's surprised that it wasn't a draw. But anyway, and then Sarah McMahon. So when she beat Sarah McMahon dominated the first round with her wrestling, was winning the second round with her wrestling. Then Caitlin was able to actually get the takedown because it was against the clinch, against the fence, if I remember correctly. Get the takedown, pass the half, get the arm triangle in, and got rid of her. So Caitlin Veer, and if you look at her striking totals, besides Ashley Evans Smith, when like these years go too, it doesn't really matter. Caitlin is looking to grapple. So she's looking to grapple, and she's looking to grapple against Sajara Eubanks. It's going to be the same story. Caitlin is going to be taller. She's a taller, lankier fighter. She's not going to be as thick as Sajara Eubanks. Hilarious story about that too is Sajara Eubanks came out to WAP for her walkout song, our last fight, which is, like I said, is pretty daggum hilarious. So that's for what you really want. That's what I got for you. But the fights you guys obviously want to know a little bit more about. So Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. You're probably thinking I need to pick one of these guys because these guys are going 5 rounds. And actually, I'll put both championship fights up here as I can. They won't be in order because I'm looking at them as I can see their names because your boy is blind. So, okay, here. So, Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Who should you pick? Israel Adesanya is third most knockdowns in the UFC middleweight. Has a very good high striking percentage when he lands. When he lands against a lot of opponents, depending on their style, like how they fight. Like him versus Romero. That's hilarious that they only got 54 fan points because of how least, whatever the correct term is, that they actually struck each other. And then you see, that's probably why his totals went up so high. You know, you're knocking Kevin Gastelum four times in one fight, and then Robert Whittaker twice. That's obviously going to get you. And then Derek Brunson 3 times. I mean, geez, no wonder you're going to catch up with these people so fast. Anyway, so Israel and Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. To get more to the point, this is a high impact fight. These guys are going to go. They're going to trade. This won't be like Romero and Adesanya. And then the reason why I say that is Paulo Costa has he lands almost 9 significant strikes a minute, which is by far the highest in UFC middleweight history, and I think in the entire history of the UFC. And the crazy thing is he absorbs, it's like 4.5 to 5 strikes per minute as well. But like when you're getting 4.5 to 5 significant strikes landed on you, but you're landing 9, people aren't going to be able to keep up. And not only is he landing 9, it's 9 with a high striking percentage. So when people see the physique of Paulo Costa, they don't think he has the gas tank to last as long as he does. This is his first 5-round fight, I do believe. Let's see if they have any up here for him. In the UFC, I believe, anyways. Yeah, so this is his first 5-round fight. It'll be interesting to see if his gas tank can go that long. This is comical. I don't think nothing of it as much. Like Israel Adesanya said that he'll end up choking Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is a black belt. Israel Adesanya is a blue belt. I know his jiu-jitsu is getting better in regards to Adesanya. I don't know how good Paulo's black belt jiu-jitsu is, especially when it comes to MMA, which is the higher point here. But Paulo Costa also got knocked down. Throw this out here. He got knocked down twice by Yoel Romero, but that's because of his reckless style. I do not think that Israel hits harder than Yoel Romero at all. Obviously, you don't need power to put somebody out anyway. But excuse me. But both of these fights actually, I would think about depending on what you're using for your lineup. Because let's see here, like having these 4 fighters in, and then I would just click these couple people here. Not necessarily that it matters for y'all too much. And yes, I'm picking people I think would win as well, so that's also important. But as you see here, you could put, maybe you do this as a DK lineup. Put the championship fighters in, because I don't. It'll be interesting to see if Dom Reyes beats or finishes Jan Blachowicz. But anyway, so back to the Costa Adesanya thing. I don't think Costa has any takedown attempts in the UFC, like at all. He submitted. Oh, he's knocked down, which is that's doesn't make any sense. It says he does it. He was not credited for a knockdown for Oluwaye Bambose, but he knocked him out in the second round. Like that doesn't make any sense. But as you see here, he's knocked down everybody he's fought. Like obviously, if you knock him back down, I mean, well, you TKO'd him, so you could have knocked him out against the fence, which is he may have. I can't remember, but he's knocked down pretty much everybody he's fought. So that's the thing about that too. But anyway, so them two together could obviously get you like pretty good points. It's not really a fight analyst thing. It's just an overall thing. And like you see here, Adesanya at 8,500, Paulo Costa at 7,700. That's a great deal. Dominic Reyes versus Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz has not fought in any. Oh yeah, he did. He beat Ronaldo Souza in a 5-round fight. That fight was not very interesting because it was Souza's first fight at light heavyweight, and Souza was trying to hold Jan against the cage as much as he could, and a lot of his trips that he was going for obviously probably didn't work too well for him. Because I'm sure if he got him down, he may have been able to submit him. But that wasn't able to happen. And then Jan is coming off that knockout of Corey Anderson, where he was a big dog in that fight. Thiago Santos put it on him when he fought him. Nikolai Krylov, he was able to beat him. Jimmy Manawat, Jared Cannonier. So like this is just kind of names to like look at like what he did in this years ago when he lost to Gustafsson and Patrick Cummins, which is hilarious as he ended up turning it around. With a 3-fight win streak. But Dom Reyes, a lot of people believe, did beat John Jones the last time that they fought. And you can see here, look at a couple of his wins. Beating Ovens by decision and Ozdemir by decision, and then knocking out Chris Weidman, which is because he was definitely chinny at that time, knocking out Jared Cannonier. Kimball, I don't even think he's in the UFC anymore, and Joachim Christensen, I don't think he's in the UFC anymore either. So think about that. You may want to keep both those fighters on there. This is a bigger cage, like I said, so I think the fight is going to be contested a whole lot more on the feet, and neither one of them are necessarily going to be looking for the takedowns and things like that. If you guys want to know just a little more, and then we're going to slide over for the sake of time and everything else. Let me look at another person here. No, that's all that I will talk about directly on here. If you guys, like I said, if you have questions, you can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at 37mode, and I answer your questions about any additional fighters. To like the sake of brevity, even though it's not going to be really short because I'm about to go slide up to the Sportsbook page, but a lot of city kickboxing guys I think will do fairly well on this fight card as well. And they are not likely to possibly to get finished in my eyes with the cage and being able to move and stuff like that, and how they've had to prepare for upcoming wrestlers and the good wrestlers they have there. So that is that. Let's go to the lineups and give me a second here. Hey guys, how's it going here? We are now on the DraftKings Sportsbook page. Say this all the time, say it again. DraftKings Sportsbook is not legal in all states at the current moment. A lot of the states believe it will be legalized here sometime in the fall, October, November-ish, in more states. If you're caught doing this in a state that the betting is not allowed, you can face sanctions. Um, it's not allowed in Tennessee, so I cannot place bets here. But you can also look at the lineups if you want to. For you guys and gals out there who have access to it, from what I see here now, is they're doing a 50% profit boost to bet on UFC 253. So that is how you can get it did. So things here that make sense for your boy, right? So if you're looking at these odds, and always keep in mind, like I tell people, you can remember some of the things that I said on the lineup page and how it goes for the betting odds. It goes two different ways, right? So with the betting odds, we're going by the lines, and then we're also going to go to winning methods that I'm going to pick up here in a little bit as well. And then also to go the distance for some fights it's worth mentioning. And if you just went ahead and skipped to this portion of it, remember you can ask me anything at 37 Mode, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So what I may say on the lineups, say this all the time, is maybe different from the betting odds page. Why? Because on the lineups, yes, I want all my fighters I choose to win. That's obviously how you get the most points. At the same time, you have to be a little bit realistic. If you can front load your lineups with a lot of heavy hitters, you're going to have to probably pick somebody that's going to take an L. But if you pick somebody who takes an L, you want them to get you a decent amount of points so you can still be in the money. You know what I'm saying? That's what you want to do. Well, if you go to these betting odds, you have to win. You know, I don't care that you were winning 2 rounds and you got finished. You know what I'm saying? I need you to win. So if you see me or hear me say something about, oh, you said pick this person over here, but now you're choosing this different fighter over here, there's a reason for that. One, the odds could be like, hey, it's worth the flyer to spend the $10 on them. Or it could be two, no, I never thought they was going to win, but I thought they would get me 30 or 40 points, which is a lot better than like the 0, 1s, and 2s, because some people just get shutouts pitched on them. So let's get into it. Once again, you can ask me. I'm going to mention a couple of these fighters. Not all of them, because I never do. But if you want to know more, obviously you can always look them up. You can ask me about their opinions, about their gyms, their histories, things like that. And then I'll do my best to help you out. So when we're looking at these odds, right, William Knight versus Aleska Kimura, or Kamaru, however you say his correct name. This is a light heavyweight contest. William Knight is at the plus 134. I like this fight. William Knight is also he's a knockout artist. He does have a lot of subs when he was in the amateur circuit. I think he has one as he's turned pro. Aleska Kimura is another knockout artist himself. William Knight is a whole lot bigger, like thickness wise. He may not be taller than him. So this fight is it's going to probably be contested on the feet, and who has the heavier hands is probably going to get it done. But like I said, I like William Knight at the plus 134. Shane Young is one of the city kickboxing guys. I didn't mention it on the other half, but he is a city kickboxing guy. Obviously, he's taking his opponent on short notice. The odds makers like the short notice replacement. This guy obviously missed weight by 4 pounds. You know, it's not terrible. You know, you're saying you took the fight on a week's notice, but Shane Young has been getting ready to go, and he's also been living in a place that you've been able to train for the entire time. And when you have training partners like Alexander Volkanovski, and he fought Alexander Volkanovski before too, and he lost by decision, but you have him, and you have Israel Adesanya. You had the championship mentality in there, and you're only at plus 108. I like those odds. Jake Matthews, I do believe, will beat Diego Sanchez, but Diego Sanchez at plus 470. I think he's interested enough to put a couple dollars on, especially for the fact that Jake Matthews' primary path to victory is submissions. Diego has never been subbed, even though Jake does have some knockout wins, but he likes to go for the takedown and try to get his grappling on. Diego Sanchez is going to, off the rip, go at him, press forward, throw hands, does not care what happens. It's not necessarily going to look for the takedown, but if you go for the takedown on him, you better have an active full guard. Well, he has a, sorry, saying this a better way. Diego Sanchez has a very active guard. He's going to be looking to sweep, throw up arm bars, triangles, sit up to guillotines, all that. So that's something to think about here. Hakeem Daewoo, the plus 115 versus Zabura. Like I told you guys before, Zabura missed weight. And this is a featherweight fight. So Hakeem is going to be obviously looking to attack the body. These are both relative strikers. So this is going to be looking to attack the body and see how well of shape that he's actually in. Sajara Eubanks at the plus 150, like I aforementioned before. She's fresh off a win 2 weeks ago where she was a dog. They put her a dog again for a lady who's not fought in almost a year after being finished within the first round. And then she even had a year before that fight. So how well has Caitlin been able to train? Obviously, she could have been dealing with injuries or things like that. So those things are worth taking note as well. So that is specifically it on that round. Like I said, you can ask me about any of these other fighters if you choose to. Because some of these I think they could be pushed. It could be a little bit closer than what you think it would be. Like I do think Don Reyes will beat Jan. But do you really want to put that 265 on him? And then in fairness, you got to think about this too. Some fights I don't mention is because it's like very obvious, but you don't come here for the obvious stuff. You come here for stuff a lot of people don't think about, right? So let's go to winning method, right? So I don't think so. Just in an interesting thing, I don't think Juan Espinoza is going to finish Jeff Hughes. I think he'll win by decision. You bet on Juan Espinoza to win by decision. That's plus 280, and I like those odds. William Knight and Alexa Kamur, going straight back to them. These guys are, like I said, light heavyweights, big heavy guys, especially in this case of William Knight, looking to throw hands. I don't think there is a decision win between the guys. So whoever you decide to pick here, like I said, I like William Knight to actually win this fight, and then double down on that with the plus 195 for him to win by knockout, finish, or submission. And then I'll tell you this, guys, as well. So anytime I pick, like, it makes the odds a whole lot less specific. But unless, how would I say this? William Knight has a history of winning by KO. So does his opponent, right? So since they have a history of winning by by knockout, those are the fighters you may choose, as you see here. Scroll back down if you're looking at it on YouTube, to win by knockout. But the winning by submission is like you see those odds for him that are like stupid high. Like I said, William Knight has a lot of subs, but his subs were in the amateur level. And then I couldn't find any for Alaska. Sometimes it's worth putting a little bit dollars on, depends on what you got. But I always like to choose specific win methods, right? One of my buddies, we was talking about a fighter a week ago, and I told him, I said, I believe the guy's going to finish. And then he put the guy was going to finish by knockout. Luckily, the guy did finish by knockout. However, the guy that he fought, he won a fight by submission and knockout in the UFC previously. And his style was is pretty much based on pounding somebody until they give up a sub, not just necessarily knocking out somebody. But luckily, he slept that guy, and that wasn't a problem. So always think about that, because you may have a guy that you pick to win. He does win, but then if he doesn't win by your exact method of choice, of course, like you said, you're rolling the odds. Um, that's a problem. But if you think a guy's going to finish, so I say like if you think a guy is going to finish or a girl's going to finish, I just say it's a little bit less money, but I always like going with the knockout or sub. It's a knockout sub or DQ, but I like to go with the knockout or the sub. Winning methods. Keep scrolling. So that's it. Yeah, by that, because I don't think a lot of these things are gonna go. Like Paulo Costa might, very strongly might, uh, finish. Israel Adesanya might, and I feel like this too. If Israel is to beat, or if Paulo Costa is to beat Israel Adesanya, it would only be by finish. I think that fight may go long, but my only way of seeing the path to victory for Paulo to win is if he won by finish. So let's look at this to win by decision. This is always like the shorter portion of it, because I talked a lot about some of the other fighters on the other half. So this I said this earlier, but I go back to it. Like Juan Espinoza for the plus 280 to win by decision. I like that. William Knight versus Isaac Kimura. I do not think it's going to go to the cards. Never know, because it is a bigger thing. But like I said, I think William Knight will win. So if you did a solo bet for him for plus 700 to go by decision, I'd do it. Shane Young, I believe, will, if he wins this fight, he won't finish Kalane based off of the style from City Kickboxing, unless it's it's shown for him taking that fight on short notice. So I take the Shane Young at the plus 210 for win by decision. Diego Sanchez, like I said, like you see the Jacob Matthews at the minus 160, and that's because of his style. I don't think Diego Sanchez wins by decision. If Diego Sanchez wins, I think he finishes him. Because I think he like catches him in a guillotine or something like that. But like, I mean, his last. Let me type this up real fast. But I do think actually on a streak, because you guys are getting a little extra preview here on the YouTube page, getting to look at good old Diego's wiki. I do think he has a decision win in the past couple of, Craig White. So that was 2018. So Marcin Hill, that was 16. So he's only had a decision in 16. It was 2 years in 18. He got finished twice, and then he knocked out Mickey Gall after putting hands on him, and then he lost a Michael Chiesa, and he was losing to Michelle Pajeda. So, and then he ended up getting that disqualification. So I don't think he'll win by decision. Hakeem Daewoo, I believe he will win by decision against Zabura. I think it's going to be more or less. It's going to be a kickboxing fight, so it'll be at range the majority of the time. Sajara Eubanks, I think she wins by decision too. I don't think she really finishes Caitlin Vieira at the plus 250. Like I said, guys, I don't like Caitlin Vieira to really win this anyway, especially because she has a grappling based style, and Sajara is a superior grappler to her. But anyway, guys, let's see here, and then throwing this here at the end. Single bets, because you guys can parlay a lot of stuff too, which is, I'm not going to set up the parlay stuff like I've done before in the past. But Israel Adesanya to win by decision at the plus 300, it's a pretty good bet to think about taking. I know it kind of like flip-flops with how I'm thinking of things, but how it says. But I don't think Paulo Costa wins the fight if it goes to the cards. I think that's easy to lose. I think, because sum it up for you guys like this, I think Paulo is going to come heavy first and second round. And he's probably going to try to come hard the third round as well. What I feel and believe is if Izzy loses the first 2 rounds, if he's not finished, the third round's going to happen. Paulo is not used to these further rounds, and the only way you can get, like, yeah, you might be training for him in the gym, but it's a lot different than, because people aren't really trying to take your head off. I think that Costa fades, Izzy takes it up late from like mid third to the end. And if he can get that third, I think it's 48-47 Izzy. So go ahead and take that, but that's what I like. So thank you guys for taking the time to check this out. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the pod, to the YouTube. Share it around for other people to see if you can win some money. Like I said at the beginning, I say it again now. You can find the pod version, which is exactly the same thing on YouTube. If you don't have a chance to look at it on YouTube, on any platform that you use. So Facebook, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Apple Play. You can find it, right? So, and I talk about other things on there as well. But so yeah, just do me that, like it around, share, let people know. That's how the pod can grow, and that's how we can do things better. Also throw this out here for you as well. You can also support the pod by clicking a link on all the podcast platforms for as little as 99 cents a month. Can help me do things, get better equipment. Obviously, doing that also, the more people who end up doing that would also help me figure out how to put these things out a lot earlier. That way, if I could do some ads, some secondary things at the very end, I can do that for you as well. And even possibly thinking about doing it like a blog where I just have everything posted on there for you. So instead of a 45, 50-minute thing you're having to listen to, it could take you 10 to 12 minutes to look at my thoughts and suggestions or whatever. So that all can happen by, obviously, more followers that come my way, more subscribers that come my way. And then if people are like interested in donating for, like I said, at least $1 a month, that definitely helps. So thank you guys for checking out the pod. This is how you become legendary, and greatness is earned.